Hey, business building warrior. This is Jim. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I've got a guest today, actually, a couple guests who will be on the show in just a moment. They've built an amazing business. They're hoping to hit about 3 million on Amazon this year. They've been in our community for quite a while. We reminisce a little bit. We've never had them on the show before, but we actually met at a trade show called ASD. It's in Las Vegas a couple times a year. And they were there kind of doing some investigation work for the brand that they were building. But that's where we first met. And Rick and I's first encounter was an interesting conversation. We'll fill you in on that a little bit today, as well as kind of how we got the ball started with them. And they've been coaching students with us for several years now. You hear us reference quite frequently how we work with our students over the long term. We build relationships with these people. We become intimately involved, if you will, in their lives and their businesses. That's what we do here. And this is another great example of someone who's been with us a long period of time, kind of things that they've seen happen, the ripple effect of those relationships. Even they mentioned their kids, family members, starting Amazon businesses, some of them doing the replens model that you hear us talk about so much around here. They're all using the proven Amazon course, the content that we train there. Some of them are coaching students. And in this case, Rosemarie has an incredible jewelry line that she's been able to build on Amazon. We discussed a lot about how she went from knowing nothing to growing a significant brand that, like I said earlier, is doing about $3 million is the goal for the year on Amazon. Incredible story, great couple. It was very encouraging for me just to see these relationships that have paid off this long-term investment that we've made into lives over the years. I love having these people on the podcast who've been in the community for 3, 5, 8, 9, 10 years. It's pretty amazing to see their maturing and their growth, the results that they've achieved, and how the community has embraced them and supported them, not just in their business, but the friendships that have emerged. So this is another great example of a great couple. I'd love to introduce you to Rick and Rosemarie Bauer. Let's get them on the line. So Rick and Rosemarie, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Really looking forward to this. We've interacted a couple times over the years, like I mentioned in the intro, but I've never had a chance to spend some significant time with you guys. So this is going to be a treat for me as well as I'm sure for the listeners. So Rick, why don't we start with you? Let's jump into the story.
Great, Jim. Thank you. Well, I guess the story is my wife's been involved in jewelry and fashion since I've known her. As a matter of fact, that's partially how we met, but that's a different episode. She had a lot of interest. She was working in the retail space in jewelry and fashion, had a lot of interest in doing something on her own, and honestly tried, you did Etsy, you did eBay, tried all kinds of venues where she was making jewelry herself, and she couldn't keep up with demand as a single woman with 3 young kids and a husband who traveled all the time. So I said, Rosemarie, you need to think about Amazon. And honestly, I think that was 8 or 10 years ago.
Exactly. And I said, whoa, that's too big. I don't think so, Rick. That's just too big for me.
Intimidated by it, huh?
Exactly. And he insisted. So I said, okay, why not? And we went to the ASD show in Vegas to find out a little bit more. He said, if you really want to make this a business, you can't make all your jewelry yourself and be able to take care of this, scale it. And so he said, you got to find some vendors. So he had the idea, let's go to the ASD show in Vegas. Okay, we went not knowing what we were going to find or who we were going to meet and what manufacturers were even out there. And lo and behold, we found unbelievable vendors and we met Jim Cochran.
Hey, that's me.
And that was amazing.
Yeah, that's where we met.
What a coincidence.
And I know we've talked about this, Jim, on several occasions. The memorable thing about that presentation was I loved everything you said on stage, except the offer you had for $300 and I'll give you education for the rest of your life. And as a business guy, I'm like, how do you stay in business and do that? There's no recurring revenue. So I, as you remember, introduced myself. We talked briefly afterwards. And I said, Jim, I love everything you say, but I just don't understand how business like that can stay in business. So I don't think we're interested right now. And I've forgotten, your response was notable. Do you recall?
Vaguely.
Don't do it. I think.
We have had. It's been many years ago.
Yeah.
But you'd probably be better at recalling it than I am at this point. But I definitely remember that. This is relational. Stick around. Enjoy the free content. And we're not doing it just to make a bunch of money. We're doing it to change people's lives. And it was a very notable conversation. I do remember absolutely meeting you. I know we've chatted since then, but tell me your version of it, because I've had similar conversations over the years.
Yeah, as I recall, your comment was take advantage, as you said, take advantage of the free stuff. I don't want to sell you on anything, but if you come to a point that you really believe it works, we'd love to have you as part of the team. I'm a slow learner, Jim. It took me about 12 months to figure out this is legit. That's truly been a life-saving change in our lives. We signed up for the lifetime membership. It has changed the trajectory of her business.
Absolutely.
Tell them where you are now.
So, believe it or not, we started out a very small. I worked out of my hall closet with our first purchase was we were dying $300, and it started growing, and we started getting help from Jim. And the beginning, I've got to just say, we were just on pins and needles. Can we do this or can't we? Yes, maybe so. Well, I was able to scale it up. I mean, it went from just a few $100s a week to, we're talking about 10 years. Now, after, it wasn't easy. After making some changes here and there, we're now a 7-figure company.
That's incredible.
A strong 7-figure business.
And it's all fashion jewelry and accessories. And we've tried things, we've changed things, we've moved things around. But in the end, my goal was to find exquisite, beautiful, unique design jewelry for that is affordable for the middle America. I wanted women to have more choices than what they could find at the local stores. And I feel like I really filled that niche. But then something else occurred in the middle of my journey. I was walking the dog. Quickly, I'll tell you, I was walking the dog one morning, and lo and behold, a car from behind came up and hit me and ran me down. It didn't run me over, but it hit me so terribly that I had a traumatic brain injury.
And how long ago was this at this point, Rosemarie?
Actually, it's 5 years ago this month.
We're at the 5-year anniversary of that.
Yes. And it was a long, long journey for me. And I know I was able to come through it because of my faith and my family. If it wasn't for that, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Well, that's for you, surviving and coming back, and you've done great. But I would say the business was able to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And a great part of that, Jim, was the learnings we had from your organization. And we've worked with several people, as you know, within the organization. And so that has enabled this business to stay alive, because at that point in time, this was her full-time income. She quit her other jobs for this business. And this, you never know when a traumatic incident like that's going to happen. You pray that it never does happen. But if it does, this business enables you to go forward and move on. And she didn't lose income that year. In
fact, I was amazed because I didn't have the pressure of worrying what was going to happen, because I knew everyone would come out and do their part, and they did. This actually is a family organization. I hired on my daughter-in-law as my partner. My son is in charge of all the shipping. And then we have 3 employees. And even my little granddaughter, 8 years old, comes down and does her share. And everybody pulled together. And it was remarkable. And we continue to grow.
That's beautiful. The so many great stories we could go into. You guys have surmised 5 years into a couple minutes here.
I got to say, one thing that came from this accident, I realized how much my faith helped me and helped me with my perseverance to carry on. So on top of the fashion jewelry, I also carry religious jewelry and inspirational jewelry, because no matter what women are going through, it doesn't matter. Sometimes the strength you get from being able to wear something religious is amazing, gives you strength. And
something spiritually significant. And I know some guys appreciate those kind of, I'm not a jewelry guy. I know guys that are. I've got kids that appreciate it more than I do, sons, a nice necklace or a ring or something, but not so much me. But I do know how much it means to my wife. She can go through this, stuff that her grandma passed her, and like every ring has a significant emotional or spiritual or emotional or moment in time or significance to her spiritually, that I know it's significant because I live with someone who sees the world the same way. So thank you for that. It sounds like you've turned it into a ministry, and I absolutely want to make sure that we let people know how they can check out what you guys have to offer. I don't know if you've got a website, if you're primarily Amazon. Well, I imagine we'll dive into that, but absolutely, let's leverage this opportunity for folks to check out what you guys have for sure. We don't want to get away from that.
Great.
I feel like now we're off to the races, quite honestly, Jim. We do follow a lot of your suggestions, and your Facebook group is also very informative for us too. And unbelievably, our 4th quarter is coming up so quickly, and we feel it's going to be good. I can even mention COVID was very good for us, because I think more people started using Amazon than ever before. We were quite surprised.
Yeah. So what percentage of your business is on Amazon?
What would you
95%.
say?
Oh, wow.
I do have
You're
a
all
website.
in. Yeah. I was going to guess you had
website.
some Etsy going on, some eBay going on. It's like, no.
They have a website. So she mentioned the 2 stores. Rosemarie Collections is her general jewelry line. Then she's got Rosemarie's Religious Gifts. Religious Gifts. And that's a separate store on Amazon, but they're fully aware, all those disclosure things.
Right.
And that's got a separate website. And both of those, I would guess, roughly 95% Amazon.
That's fantastic. So you guys are taking orders on your website, then fulfilling through Amazon?
Yes, it's interesting. I was going to just mention, Amazon fulfills it for us. So we ship everything to Amazon, and they indeed will send everything to both our website and to the Amazon customer.
Gotcha. There's so many directions we could go. I'm a little bit like deer in headlights right now, because there's like 5 areas I would love to go right now. I think I'm probably going to let you guys take control of it from here, but I do have a question about, since we kind of dove into the specifics of your business model for a moment here. How many of your orders would you say, what percentage are driven from people finding you on Amazon and never even knowing you have a website, versus people finding your website and placing an order there? Does that question make sense? I'm just curious how that breaks down. I don't know that I've ever heard that from you guys.
I would definitely say Amazon for sure. Our customers find us first on Amazon. We do have those Amazon ads, which are so important. We do some social media marketing, and I feel, yes, they do find us on our website, but definitely Amazon.
Well, I'll be sticking a link to your websites in the show notes today, but what are they?
Okay, it's Rosemarie, one word, collections.com, and Rosemarie's Religious Gifts.
.com. And that's plural on Rosemarie's
Marie's with an S.
Religious Gifts.com. Gotcha. Okay. But most of your customers are finding you on Amazon and they don't even know you've got a website, possibly.
Exactly.
Right. And I think part of that, Jim, is, things have changed a lot in the last 8 or 10 years on Amazon.
Oh,
And back in the day, there weren't that many competitors on Amazon. Quite frankly, there were some big companies, Pandora was on there and that kind of stuff. But just there weren't as many smaller jewelry businesses. So that helped them rank, I think, in some of the search terms in the early days that now it's tough to rank for.
yeah. It got you some momentum, though. Do you have many repeat customers?
We do. We have a lot of repeat customers.
How do you stay in touch with them? Do you gathered email addresses creatively over the years?
We're in the working stages of that right now, but Amazon has certain rules and regulations about that. Although I think they're opening up.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll need to talk to you guys about that. It's a fairly small segment of our audience that, let me just talk to the listeners for a moment too, because typically these podcast episodes have been, if you listen to 30 episodes, 28 of them are going to be about the replens model, the reseller model. So I put you guys in the category, Rick and Rosemarie, of being almost like a private label seller. Although it's a bunch of different products, they're all uniquely yours. So these strategies of growing a mailing list and kind of being able to communicate with your audience and finding strategic ways to do that. It's not a topic we're going to dive real deep into right now, but Amazon is getting friendlier. It's something many, many of us have been pushing them to do for a long time. I've even made the case. The highest level I ever talked to is a senior vice president. This guy works for Jeff. I only had Bezos himself, right? I only had a few minutes with the guy, but the point I drove home and emphasized to the greatest extent I could with the time I had was, man, you've got to let sellers build relationships with buyers, because we'll have a whole lot more transactions on your platform if you do it. We'd be willing to pay money for the privilege to do so. Please let us open those floodgates and see these customers not as Amazon's customers, but as maybe a shared customer between Amazon and the jewelry.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So those doors are beginning to open, as you said. We're not going to dive into that today a whole lot, but yeah, we'd love to help you on that journey. And I've said many times, the most valuable asset you can have in e-commerce or outside of e-commerce, the most valuable asset you can have as a business owner is, do you guys happen to know what I say? I've been saying the same thing for 20 years. Have you ever heard me say it by any chance? The most valuable asset you can have?
The relationship with the customer?
Your customer.
Yes.
Your customer.
At scale, that would be a group of people that can't wait to hear from you again.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that would be
so you need the contact information to activate that asset.
Right.
And I'm anxious to let people know personally what I have for them that's unique. For instance, instead of just regular religious jewelry, I have fashion religious. So it's not a typical holy metal per se, but maybe has some other crystals or eloquence and something that people would enjoy if they knew about it.
Something that's meaningful to them. Yeah, you've got to have the ability to communicate. The example I used when I talked with Amazon was, you've got people out there, maybe it's not you, maybe it's not me, who are really into model trains. Right? And Amazon sells all kinds of model train parts all day, every day. But what we've done, Amazon, what you've done is you've built a brick wall between those people who geek out about buying model train parts and the people who geek out about selling them. You build a brick wall between that. Whereas if you just take that wall down, they would interact and build relationships and buy a whole lot more and sell a whole lot more, because now there's a relationship there. And we could still keep it on your platform, but you're not letting those two parties talk to each other.
I think that's a life changer.
With you, it's jewelry. You've got people who'd be fascinated by, the rocks and the different details. And my dad did a fair amount of jewelry. We lost him in late 2020, but just the polishing of the rocks, and he really got into that. And we still have a lot of his great work. Again, it's not something that floats my boat, but I know a lot of people who really get into it and really enjoy it. And so for you to the degree that you can begin to have conversations with those folks, that's going to blow your business up even bigger. I mean, you're already in a very healthy 7-figure business. So how do you come up with your creative ideas? Is this all you, Rosemarie, or are there other sources?
I'll tell you, it's many different areas. We do travel now to different vendors in Chicago and New York, but we also are very much aware of what's going on in social media. We feel like um, they're on it so fast. So things change so quickly that we have to be right there on it. And I know also there's a lot more to discover. So I'm always open to try different things. And we've tried handbags, by the way. We do scarves.
Really?
It's interesting, but like you just mentioned, the model trains. If you have a passion for something, you just go for it and enjoy it all the way through.
Yeah. Well, I love having an episode like this from time to time where we talk to a private label seller who's kind of grown up in our community. They've been around a while. We have a lot of lessons and content there. It does work. But if you guys were brand new, it would be irresponsible of me to shove you down this path. You need to learn the ropes first. So
Absolutely.
just to
This
throw that
didn't happen
disclaimer out there,
overnight.
if you're new, don't launch a line of jewelry. I'm sure you've had people come to you and like, hey, I want to launch a jewelry line. Tell me the 3 things I got to do tomorrow so I can be successful like you.
Exactly.
They don't know the blood, sweat, and the tears, let
Yeah.
alone the life challenges that are going to come. You know,
Yeah.
so has this been a smooth upward climb, or maybe tell us some of the more difficult challenges you guys have faced along the way? Have you ever come close to shutting it down, for example?
No, not this business. Now,
No, but
in fairness, before she did the Amazon, she was on Etsy, and we mentioned the other platforms, and you had 3 or 4 other Bella Beads and
I had different names. They
several
went through
other
different names.
companies that did go under.
It was a process to get to where I am now, definitely. And I can remember walking into the UPS store with one box of 100 pieces of jewelry and being so excited I could hardly take it. And now we have, I don't know, several thousand that go in. Even
Yeah, last
in a
week
day.
you had 3 SUVs full of jewelry
Mhm.
go to the UPS store,
Wow.
taken out. Those boxes must have been 24-inch cubes, and I think there was 5 of those in each SUV. So yeah, it was thousands and thousands, but it's a difference. And Jim, one thing I want to say about the private label, you got to remember we've taken 10 years of learning, most of it coming from your group, which is why we're so grateful.
Right.
It didn't happen overnight. It was doing the right things consistently over time. And, Amazon's totally different today than it was in 2010. Is staying up with all those changes, and groups like yours. She mentioned the Facebook group, even interacting with other sellers.
That helps so
It's
much.
really helpful to stay on top of
Mhm.
where you are in life.
Yeah. Yeah. The game's constantly changing. That's one of the few skills that I say you truly need. It's a pretty small skill set to be successful in e-commerce. Make sure you're listening to the right people. Don't spend a whole bunch of money unnecessarily and sink your ship. But you've got to be able to continuously be learning because the rules are going to change constantly. It's kind of like we've hopped on a wagon trail and we've headed into the Wild West. You don't have to worry about dying of dysentery,
Right.
but it's kind of the rules are being written as we go. We don't know what we're going to run into here, but we do know that there's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
And it's everywhere. If you're willing to continuously learn, continually test
That's right.
small, right? Like I could just take a stab at, I would say the Pareto principle has to apply to your business, meaning I would guess about 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of those good ideas you've had, which means you've had a whole bunch of ideas that kind of didn't really go anywhere.
Mhm.
And you tested them and they didn't go, and your instinct told you they would be huge and they didn't turn out that way. And some of the ones that you thought would be, just a throwaway idea turned out to be huge. We're always surprised. But being willing to continually test and continually learn and don't take any stupid big risks as you do that, well, that's a winning formula over a period of time. And that's what you guys have done. Correct me if I'm wrong, but does the Pareto kind of apply to your business? Do you have like a handful of like winners that are just like kind of keep the wheels turning?
Most definitely.
Almost all businesses
and
are that way.
You have
Very
to
rare to see
realize you can
exception.
only have so much expertise. You got to rely on people who have that expertise and learn from them. You can't have it all. You've got to be able to accept other help.
Well, give me some specifics. You've mentioned you've learned lessons over the years. Does anything stand out? I mean, we don't have to go through the whole laundry list, but what are some of those key points or key moments maybe, or skills that you've picked up along the way that have helped you here? You've spoken very highly, and I'm grateful for it, of our organization. But anything specific stand out?
A simple thing like keywords. We just took it all for granted, put in these beautiful, eloquent, stunning words that meant nothing.
Right.
And that was a hard lesson to learn, that we got to redo all of our titles. We've got to do our keywords over. Or we bought jewelry. Oh, that's a beautiful, oh, we just love this. Everyone's going to love it. We bought a bunch and nobody wanted
Like I just said, we think we've developed the instincts, and then our audience loves to prove us wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you play the game. Well, let's lower our prices. Nobody likes them when they're lower. Then you make them too high, and it's too much. So you gotta learn from those things and not go crazy both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Always be testing, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always be testing new things, trying out things, and not letting your ego get in the way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
That's the risk. I'm in admiration of artists. I can't remember who wrote the book. There's No Starving Artists, I think is the title of it. No More Starving Artists, something like that. Have you read that by any chance?
No, I haven't.
Or heard of it? Someone will correct us in the comments. I wasn't prepared to nail the title, but it's something like that. No Starving Artists is basically the premise. The premise is, it's one thing to make art for your own pleasure and enjoyment, and that's great. I'm not knocking that at all, obviously. But if you're going to truly serve others, what you want to make becomes less and less important to the point of almost irrelevance, which is a hard thing for an artist to hear. What you want to make is irrelevant. What do people want to buy? What do they want? What makes their life better? It's one thing to hang it on your own wall. It's another thing to put it out there for the world. And artists tend to be, a lot of times the sentimentality is, I don't know, they're nervous to show their art to the world. And I know these things because, my wife, the painter, right, hanging behind me, I've got her work, and she loves painting. But when someone comes to her and pays her to make a painting, suddenly she just goes to this different mode of uncertainty, and she's nervous, right? But the game on Amazon is, okay, what does the crowd want? The crowd is always right. They tell me, they vote with their dollar bills. They're telling me what they want. So it's no longer about my instincts and what I think the world needs and wants. It's, they're going to tell me what they need and want.
Right.
So those can be hard lessons to learn. So have you kind of balanced out, Rosemarie, that artist brain versus that entrepreneurial brain? That's a trick, because very few people actually do.
It is a trick, and you have to be humble about it and realize it's what the customer wants is what counts the most, for sure.
Yeah. So do you have any boxes of stuff that you thought for sure would do great that you bought too much of, that you're still giving away as Christmas presents?
Most definitely.
The artist admits. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
But what a brilliant balance of, it's almost, to me, it's the perfect entrepreneur. That person who's able to be creative and imagine new things, but then have the humility to admit when those new things aren't something the world necessarily wanted right now, at least not in that format or in that, on that platform. And so you go find what people do want, but to be able to maintain that creativity. Great mix.
And I think creativity is part of the joy of Amazon, because it allows you to try different venues and try different things and be creative in your work. For me, I think Amazon is number one on that, for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, you mentioned you're not on any other platforms. I'm a little curious, and I would almost push back as to, like, why is that? 95% of your stuff's on Amazon. Are you doing anything with Pinterest, for example, or marketing?
I'm sorry. We advertise on Pinterest, and honestly, Pinterest is our number one venue for sales on our website. That's where it drives
traffic.
Yes.
For your non-Amazon crowd.
Right. It's Pinterest.
Okay, good. Because I was going to twist your arm a little bit if you weren't on there. I would think that would be a hot market for you.
That is amazing. And it's my go-to. Actually, I have 3 different accounts on Pinterest because I'm just crazy over Pinterest. And we're on Facebook, and we have just started on YouTube, trying a few things.
Fantastic. And there's
Instagram. I'm sorry, Instagram.
Oh, of course. Right. I mean, it's a little bit of why not? It doesn't cost you anything except a little bit of time. You can cross-purpose the same content and repurpose it across multiple platforms, spread it around. I would think it would start to really pay off. That's beautiful. Well, what else do you guys want to do? Tell me your story. Tell me a little bit more. What else? What have we not talked about now that's significant to you guys? I would like to just get to know you a little better and hear more of what, maybe it's something we've already addressed, but, pretend it's your show. Where do we go?
Yeah. One thing, Jim, that to me is really impressive, and this is about you, so don't turn red. We've got 3 kids, and everyone in our family right now, all 3 kids and their spouses and the 2 of us are on Amazon and are using basically the knowledge you've given us, because the kids come to us and say, well, what should I do for this? Well, our background is, here's what Jim says. But yeah, it's kind of unique. 10 years ago, I never would have thought. I envisioned my kids in a traditional, 9-to-5er, et cetera, et cetera. All of them now, I'm trying to think.
In different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the books.
2 of our son-in-laws have full-time jobs, but other than that, both our kids and their spouses are all working Amazon. And even the ones that have regular jobs, as you well know, they're working. One of them's working replens, like it's going out of style.
It's amazing, truly.
That's fantastic.
And it's life-changing.
I need to get them on the show too, share their stories at some point.
Yeah, most of them are here. They're all over the country. And what they're doing is very different. So it's kind of, my passion is, we've got a daughter in Florida who's got a newborn, and she's passionate about creating creative activities for this child to learn in. So she started a diary on it and said, oh, I should develop a diary for other moms. So and now she's selling that on Amazon.
We got training on that, the low content books, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So they're doing very different things. We all are. As I think I just started it hadn't been a month yet, a nutrition business on Amazon, working with Nathan Bailey, and really proud to say our first 30 days, we've got, I'm guessing we're averaging a sale a day. And
that's fantastic.
Our rankings keep moving. Well, on Amazon Talk, our rankings keep moving down and down. That's a good thing.
Yes.
We started out 400,000 or something selling in this category, and we're now down below 200,000. So, Nathan's got us on a definite track to be very successful. We're just very thankful for you and your entire group, because it really has changed our family dynamic in a very good way.
Well, I appreciate it, and I do receive that on behalf of a large group of people, most of whom are significantly smarter than I am. But I've been doing it for a while, and I've learned enough to know that you'll do a lot better in life if you surround yourself with really good people who are really smart and achieving things. And that's what this group is. It's people with a teacher's heart. They love sharing what they know. And I can see you guys on that same trajectory. As I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I'm, if we're playing chess, I'm 5 moves ahead. I'm already seeing okay, these guys are going to be great coaches someday when life allows, things settle. Maybe they sell their brand for millions and they're wondering what to do with their time. Hey, you guys are going to be leaders on the team at some point. You do that kind of thing for 20 years, you end up with a pretty special group. So on behalf of the group, I receive those compliments and that gratitude. Thank you for sharing your story. These kind of conversations with our community do so much to spread the word too, and kind of attract in the right kind of people that we do want to appeal to.
That's a good point. You're right. I believe so. Yeah.
So that's why I pushed so hard, and I probably twisted you guys' arm a little bit. Like, I got to get you on the podcast. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, our story's not that interesting, or I've heard other people talk about the things we have to share. But just the sheer volume of people who are doing it, I can't even wrap my head around it anymore. And you mentioned, you're working with Nathan, Rick. to build your brand. I didn't know. We've got so many clients plugged in, working with so many people in our organization. I can't keep track of all of it. Can't possibly hope to.
Right.
But just, seeing the names come across my desk once a week, you kind of lose track after a while.
Right.
But I'm thrilled for your
brand. He has really been a help because, like I said, Amazon, I helped her set up the original Rosemarie Collection store way back in the day, but it's a different animal today, and it's much more sophisticated to the point of the keywords and all those kinds of things.
Yep.
It's just, Nathan's helped me relearn Amazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great experience.
Well, and, from my vantage point, pardon me, I can see this trajectory again of, I see a brand and I see the momentum and the numbers are climbing. It's going to make sense at some point. Like someone else in our community who had no clue just a few short years ago, built a brand that's worth tens of millions. He now sits on the board with a handful of other people that run the company, and he sold his share to the board, basically made a ton of money, and he just kind of gets to keep an eye on things as he wants to. They'll get 2%, right? Like that's what these things can turn into over time. That's the trajectory of, this brand that you've built. Who's going to hold that brand 40 years from now? How much time do we spend? Like, who's going to keep that going when it's not us anymore? It's fun to kind of see that life cycle of these things that are happening in the group and to be a part of it. So you guys are on a pretty exciting trajectory.
Well, thank you. We were complimented that you asked us to speak, and we enjoyed our time with you very much.
Well, I enjoyed my time with you guys as well. And if there's anything else on your list too, I'd love to hear, if you had any questions for me or, because this is the longest we've ever spoken. We've known each other now at this point for several years, but this is the longest we've ever spoken. So is there anything else on your mind before we start to wrap this one up?
I'd be interested to know, Jim, where you think is there a next Amazon, or where does Amazon go from where we are?
Yeah, good question. Going back to that conversation I had with the senior VP back when I met him at Amazon, and I didn't tell him this, but I think this is a key factor, and I'm excited to see Amazon doing what it's doing in regards to allowing buyers and sellers to begin to connect, for brands to begin to grow their audience. I think that was their Achilles heel. And to the degree that they begin to address that, this is the part I didn't tell him, but I'm like, that's where you're vulnerable. That's where Facebook could become Amazon if they want to, if they take down those barriers. But if Amazon allows buyers and sellers to connect, and this isn't a Jim idea, I try not to use, when it comes to guessing about the future, we all have this equal ineptitude. Some of us are going to be lucky, some of us are going to get it wrong. But when it comes to timeless principles, I'm applying those to the Amazon situation. And I know that in Hebrew, a transaction is the beginning of a lifelong mutually beneficial relationship. That's what a transaction is. When done properly, that's all it is. It's the beginning of a mutually beneficial lifelong relationship. So if Amazon comes in and says, nope, that relationship shall not be established, it certainly won't flourish, we're keeping you in separate pools, buyers over here, sellers over there, you're not allowed to talk to each other. That's not a good thing. To the degree that Amazon is beginning to allow that now, I see the very bright future for Amazon. This could be an entirely new revenue stream for them. And it begins to replace some of that social media burnout that we've all experienced, these meaningless relationships where we bicker about things that don't matter and post stuff that doesn't matter. I see that fading out. Not as fun or as cool as it was 10 years ago. Less people are interested in that now. But if we can build it around things that we do care about, brands that we care about, people that we have things in common with, transactions associated with that, I see Amazon as having the ability to really, like, they're just getting started. So, and certainly the online shopping trends tell us that we're at 15-16% of all retail is online right now, which shocks some people. That's US government numbers. Only 15-16% of retail is online. 85% is traditional retail still. Those numbers are going to continue to head in the direction of more and more online transactions and shopping. And
I see.
The bar is going to continue to raise. Amazon is half of that in the US, half of the online activity. That's not going to change anytime soon. They are the gorilla in the room now. with plenty of fun competitors nipping at their heels at any given time. Walmart's got some things in the work. Walmart has a large war chest to play with to try to take a dent too. eBay is always going to hang in there to the degree they don't do anything stupid, with, which they're traditionally have been known to do, spending billions of dollars for Skype, stuff like that. Why did you do that? You don't even let us use it on the eBay platform. What are you doing? But e-commerce, that skill set of being able to bring a product to market by testing small, then growing an audience and selling on the platforms where the action is, getting on the Pintrest, for example, always experimenting for you guys. It's a very bright future. This is an untapped Wild West arena still. It's only about 20 years old. And most of us, myself included, I put myself in this category. We're clueless. Just so many opportunities coming at you so fast.
Right.
As long as you're willing to keep learning and keep testing small, man, the future's super bright. I don't think we even have the ability to kind of calculate the paradigm shift that's been slowly happening and then the doors that are going to continue to open. And it's not just because I try to be optimistic in saying that. I think any honest look at the numbers and the data and the facts on the table point you in this direction. Like, this is one of the most valuable skill sets you can give your kids, is to be comfortable with e-commerce.
Right.
And then not get sucked into one of those little side rail traps of becoming addicted to video games or just watching TikTok all day. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about truly bringing value using the internet creatively while remaining disciplined in your approach to it. And I could talk probably for an hour on that subject. You can tell I spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah.
But a very bright future. No question. I don't see anyone knocking Amazon off anytime soon, though. They've built quite a war chest for themselves in terms of, just sheer dollar volume they've got at their disposal to test and experiment it. And the way they're trending right now towards letting buyers and sellers connect, I think that's bigger. Get back with me 10 years from now and see if I wasn't right on that one.
I'm excited by your comments on that, because I think that is a missing factor. I would love to be able to communicate more with my buyers.
Wouldn't that just be so exciting? And that's the point I tried to emphasize to this VP was sellers are willing and ready and eager to pay for the opportunity to interact with on your platform their buyers in many cases, right? Not necessarily the random resellers that are selling, 1,000 different items, but the niche specialists. That makes your brand so much more valuable.
Oh, yes. You put so much time and effort into we don't take it for granted. We spend a lot of time choosing the vendor and making sure it's the right quality and making sure it's packaged correctly. We have a special gift box, and it goes on and on. And to be able to relate that more personally would be amazing.
Yeah. And you're just not able to do it with Amazon's participation or cooperation quite yet. You can do it on your own website, but that's not the same. It's not as convenient. You don't have the Prime Now, right? You don't have people stumbling across your listings. But imagine those two worlds beginning to merge. It's going to be a beautiful thing. I mean, it could 5 or 10x the value of your brand in a very short period of time. And I'm sure you'd be willing to share a part of that with Amazon if they turned on the faucet, right?
Absolutely.
Imagine millions of brands with that kind of mentality. If you start to really shift the way business is done, if Amazon wakes up to that factor, and there's enough people talking about it now that I think that's coming. I think it's inevitable.
It's good to hear.
Yeah,
right.
It's gonna be fun.
I gotta say, we could never do what we're doing on our own without Amazon, because they indeed ship everything out for us. They take the returns back. They bring the returns back to us. And they're so efficient, and they really have it together. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
logistics.
the future.
It's incredible. It's a number-driven logistics company, and they want to sell anything and everything, and they've come as close as anyone ever has to pulling it off.
Oh, yes.
I'm very bullish about their future. Absolutely bullish about the future. Customers are there. They're buying online more than ever, and we're about to have another record-setting Q4. What are you guys hoping to do? If you don't mind sharing some numbers, what's your Q4 goal? What do you think you're going to do?
We're hoping to be probably close to 3 million
For the year.
For the year. Wow. Well, I'm guessing a third of that comes in the last 3 months.
Actually close to a half.
Wow. Closer to half.
Yeah, close to 50%. Like I said, we're loading. They are. I'm not active in the business anymore. Got to sit back and look at the checks and smile. But they are.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, they're loading multiple SUVs a day. They have employees.
Or who like family, 4 employees, and then one that works from home.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so dedicated. And
they work 4 days a week. And each of those 4 days, you load multiple SUVs in the fourth quarter, multiple SUVs full of jewelry to go to the UPS store.
It's becoming an amazing adventure.
Well, I'm proud to be associated with you guys and honored as well. I wouldn't mind asking you guys a question because I don't know how many people come up to you and say things like, "How do I get started? I love what you've done." But talk to those folks. Just give them encouragement, because that's a lot of people who listen to this podcast are people who are kind of kicking it around. And one of the visions I have for this show is that it encourages people to make that leap without being intimidated. You're not going to be where Rick and Rosemarie are tomorrow or even next month. It's taken them 8-10 years of making mistakes and trial and error and learning and constant changes. You've built an amazing business now, but what might you say to someone who's new, who's considering getting into all of this? Just give them some instruction and help. They hear it from me all the time. What might you guys say to that portion of the audience?
I think, first of all, it's definitely possible. And if we didn't absolutely believe that, I wouldn't have started Bowhead Nutrition. That hadn't even been on Amazon for a month yet. Mm-hmm. And while she's sending in thousands and thousands of necklaces a day or whatever jewelry, I'm really happy. We just got approved for Fill by Amazon. So we've been doing Fulfill by Merchant for the last 3 weeks. I'm happy we get an order today. We got one. Right. But the reason is I know where this can go if you do it right. This is not a commercial for Jim Cockrum, and I know it's an investment because it's one that I resisted for a while. But I would tell you, investing in the coaching program there's just so much to learn. You'll learn it quickly. However, if that's out of reach right now, I think all the learning materials are on your site. It used to be My Silent Team, and I'm
Proven Amazon course is where we've got it all now.
Proven Amazon course. I mean, the information's there. And if the funds don't enable you to get a coach at this point in time, I really think if you take the time to learn, and of course we have YouTube and all those things. I'm learning how to use Frankenstein on helium, okay, and that's videos. But it's very possible to do it on a very, very low budget. And then the other option is the whole replens, which is extremely low budget. And there are plenty of videos for that. And you can kind of spend what you're able to spend in order to start. I think the only way to guarantee you'll fail at Amazon is if you never start. If you start and if you put in the work, there's a great likelihood that it'll return something or a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the other big mistake you can make besides quitting is to spend a whole bunch of money on something that you shouldn't have spent a whole bunch of money on. That's what we teach. Test small. Keep learning and keep testing super, super small. And that's, like you identified, Rick, is the beauty of the replens model, is for a few dollars. And that's one of the things that had you skeptical, is how inexpensive our stuff was. And we fight that every day. Like, we know that we could 10x our prices on everything, and that it would be justified for the value delivered. Yeah. But I don't want to take it out of reach of the people that have come to us and said, I spent my last $30 buying a course from you guys. Had it been $500, I would not have been able to do it. And it changed my life. Like, those stories compel me to keep the price low and to keep explaining why the price is so low. I don't want to yank people like me underneath anybody who's in a rough spot.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we might use that clip as marketing material. I think you did a good job, buddy. That was great.
Well, thanks. And we really, again, we can't thank you and your organization enough for the great support that we've gotten.
Because you can't do it alone. And to be able to go to someone and find out things that really will help, that you tend not to be so skeptical.
Yeah, and someone you trust.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we trust your organization.
That takes time. I love these long relationships that we've had at this point. It
Absolutely.
amazes me. I never would have imagined 20 years ago having people come up and say, yeah, I've been pretty much consuming everything you've put out there for 15 years. We've never met, but I feel like you're a brother. Like, wow, really? That
That it has
amazes
to
me.
feel great.
It amazes me. It's a strange feeling. I feel like, man, have I done enough to really earn someone saying those kinds of things about us? But then I remember, there's 100 of us and we care and we're doing a little bit every day to make what we do more valuable and more impactful. So over time, it starts to make sense, but it's still very hard to calculate it. So to hear you guys saying some of these things and treating me so kindly today, I really appreciate it. It's the
so
greatest
true.
joy of what I get to do is these episodes like this. So thank you.
Great. And we
Thank you.
can't wait to see you at the next conference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, hopefully we'll have some more details on this soon. We don't know yet where we're going to be.
Okay.
But we will do one in person and would love to see you guys there.
Oh.
Well, anything else on your mind before I talk to the listeners here for a minute? Any other questions or any other topics that we failed to hit? I don't know if you had any notes or anything. I don't want to leave out anything that you had in mind.
No, I think we've covered it, don't you think?
I believe so.
All right.
I will say, when you venture into Amazon, look for what you have a passion for. It'll just come together more smoothly, I feel. You have a passion for
It can keep you going on the slow, hard days for sure.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And for some people, that passion draws from, hey, I need something better than working 60 hours a week at a job I got to drive to 2 hours every day. That's the passion. That's what motivated me to discover e-commerce. The product, it was relevant to me. I needed to be home with my family. I wanted to give my wife the opportunity to be able to raise our kids at home and be there with them and for them if she wanted to be. That's what drove me. I would have sold anything that had a market where happy customers were buying things. And that's what led me to e-commerce. But yeah, well, great hanging out with you guys.
Thank you again.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Jim.
you.
I'll talk to the listeners for just a minute. I'm sure you had a good time hanging out with Rick and Rosemarie today. I know I sure did. Hopefully you benefited as much as I did. I feel very encouraged. And I'm just grateful that you spent some time with the three of us today, listening in and hopefully enjoying the conversation. You gave us a great gift today, some of your time. We're thankful for that. If you enjoyed this episode, one of the favors that I would ask of you as a listener to this show is please share it with somebody. If you're watching on YouTube, share the link with someone that you think it might encourage or help. If you're on iTunes, we love getting reviews on iTunes. We love when you subscribe there. That really helps us out as well. You click the little ribbon that looks like a subscribe or a bookmark kind of thing on iTunes on most devices. That's how you subscribe to our show. That way you never miss a show. It also helps bump us up in the ratings. We really appreciate those things. But on behalf of my great guests today, the whole team that makes this podcast episode, I say God bless you, Business Building Warrior. I'll have another great episode again for you very soon. Hey, before I let you go, one last quick announcement. We've got a new sponsor for the program. If you have an extra Amazon account that you're not using, this happens sometimes. People have more than one Amazon account, or you know somebody that has an account they're not using. It could be worth a significant amount of money, and you can sell that to some reputable buyers who see a lot of value in it, and then they legally move it to another Amazon seller who needs an account that's got some miles on it. If you're interested in this, visit silentjimdotcom/sell my account. Again, silentjim.com/sell my account. All one word. And you can get some more details. Reach out to them, see if it's of interest to you. Your account may be worth more than you realize.